I'm going to pull up a picture, and I don't want you to think about it. Not one single thought, feeling, emotion. Just completely ignore it, okay? Now, I have a confession to make that I'm not particularly proud of. I'm known as the positive guy. I'm all about positive thoughts, bouncing off the walls with double espresso shots of positivity. I teach how to secure unshakable confidence through the positive mindset to NBA players, coaches, CEOs, Hollywood performers. It's literally my job. But in doing so, I'm afraid I have inadvertently steered thousands in the wrong direction. So I'm here today to tell you negative thoughts are actually a good thing. How many of you, let's take a survey here, how many of you were able to not have one single thought about Mr. Shark here behind me? Just because I told you not to. And you might have been telling yourself, I'm not going to think about it, and wound up thinking about it even more. In a study done by the University of Toronto with data from the United States, researchers discovered that when placing a negative stat, number of death tolls on a road sign, followed quickly thereafter by a positive encouraging message, drive safe, and of course, love your mama, ironically resulted in more accidents on the same exact highway. So let me get this straight. The driver saw the negative stat, had a negative thought, quickly replaced it with a positive, and wound up crashing even more. Interesting, because we are told don't have negative thoughts. Think positive instead. But guess what? That doesn't just magically make those negative thoughts go away. It actually makes us press them down even further and causes us to think about them even more, just like this guy. Now, I'm not saying negative thoughts are the end goal. There's actually a lot of scientific proof around positive thoughts helping you live a happier, healthier, more fulfilled life. But negative thoughts are not the issue. It's the suppressing of negative thoughts and then slapping on a positive Band-Aid acting like everything's okay. There's a term for this. It's referred to as smiling depression. Multiple studies show 66% on the low end of U.S. adults struggle from smiling depression. Is this real? Is it real? You'll never know. But all joking aside, we're about to get very real very quick. So I'm going to read to you 2 social media posts from 2 people who are considered to be uber wealthy, extremely successful, and living the dream life. These are taken moments before they took their own life. First, from Avicii, who's known as one of the top electronic dance artists of all time. He posted a picture strolling through his lavish mansion, and he said, "It's always sunny in California," with a big smile on his face, moments before he took his own life. Or from British acting icon Caroline Fleck, she posted a picture hugging her beloved dog Ruby with a big smile on her face, moments before she ended her life. I'm sorry to get so real, but this is super real. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how famous you are, this mental health epidemic is real and we must do something about it. 1 out of every 5 U.S. adults has admitted to struggling from mental health issues. That's according to a study done by the U.S. Department of Mental Health. That's 52.9 million people. And that number has increased every single year since 2011. And it's not just adults. Adolescents, 1 out of every 2, that's 50% of adolescents have admitted to struggling with mental health issues. It's 20 million. So for you math majors out there, that's 72.9 million people just in the United States alone. And you might be thinking, well, David, you said it's increased since 2011, so maybe it's just a gradual increase? Okay, well, check this out. A study done on depression by the University of Boston Department of Health found that in 2020, before the pandemic, 8% of U.S. adults admitted to being depressed. The most recent study, 2022, that number has since skyrocketed to 32.8%. Yeah, I'd say there's an issue here. And I would attest that the smiling depression slap on a positive Band-Aid is the culprit. We can't suppress the negative thoughts. I want to do a survey. How many of you had a negative thought yesterday? Show of hands, how many of you had a negative thought yesterday? Okay. How many of you had a similar negative thought today? And now, how many of you are having a negative thought about me right now in this very minute? All right, watch it. Easy. Negative thoughts are important signs. They signal where we need to bring our attention to. Not the slapping on the positive Band-Aid, acting like everything's okay. That just leads to more depression, anxiety, and increases the mental health epidemic. So I'm going to show you today exactly how I realized negative thoughts are a good thing. And by embracing the negative, you can live a much more positive, freeing life. Okay, I'm going to tell you how it all went down here. So I was working with this high NBA draft pick. Now, I can't tell you his name because you'll see why, but if I did, the majority would probably know who he was. He was all this potential on him. They were calling him the next great player, millions of dollars before he stepped on the floor. Media followed him everywhere he went. Immense pressure was on his shoulders, and he could feel it. As the season began, he just couldn't find his rhythm. He was missing shots, playing uptight and tense, just like the shell of the player that everybody said he could be. In the media, they came after him. Social media, television, news hosts, they were coming for his head, calling him a flop, a failure, a bust. And for a 19-year-old impressionable kid, that's heavy. He stopped going out in public, just to the arena for games and back to his apartment. He didn't want to show his face. He was depressed. He even told me one night on the phone he wanted to give up basketball altogether. And you know what I said? Genius coaching move here. Check this out. I said, hey, just block out the negative. Look at the bright side. You're in the NBA. Definition of positive Band-Aid to the max. And the downward spiral continued. Even when he was in games, all he could think about was, what if I miss? What will the media say if I have another bad game? And he was drowning in the sea of negativity. Now, I tried to show him the sea of positivity because it worked before, so why wasn't it working now? Now, living in Los Angeles, I consider myself a foodie, as does basically everybody else in that town. But I just had this amazing chicken dish at this new restaurant in Beverly Hills with my wife the night before. And his team was coming out to play the Lakers, so I figured, well, what better way to continue our talks around the positive mindset than over this scrumptious chicken dish? So I lined up reservations, and he agreed reluctantly if he could wear sunglasses and a hat. But I knew this would be perfect. This would be the cure-all. So we're sitting there. Waiter comes over to take our order, and I request very confidently 2 of the same exact chicken dish I'd had the night before. The waiter looks at me confused, like, we don't carry that any longer. Our menu changes daily. Dejected, we scanned the menu and selected another item. But as we were sitting there waiting for the food to come, it hit me. Our menu changes daily. Our menu changes daily. What if we adopted that mindset? Because technically, every single day we are alive, we are changing. Siri, how many days have I been alive?
David, today you are 13,020 days old.
I am David version 13,020. Every single day we're changing. And what I'm about to tell you next has the potential to change the way you view the rest of your life from here on out. Every morning when you wake up a brand new person. Let that sink in. Every morning. And I know you're probably thinking, David, that's a cool concept and all, but where's the science? Glad you asked. 330 billion cells in your body are being replaced every single day. That's 1% of your entire being. Over the course of 100 days, every single one of your cells has been replaced. That's the equivalent of a new you. Your skin cells, you're shedding 30,000 skin cells a minute. So sitting here the last 10 minutes, you've shed 300,000 skin cells. Wow. Yeah. In over 4 weeks, every single one of those skin cells is new. You know what that equals for an entire year in pounds? 9 pounds. 9 pounds. Anyone down to start a new fad diet that's way easier to follow than keto? Yes? Yes, we are changing every single day, but only if we embrace it. If we embrace shedding the skin, embrace the new cells, the new brain synapses. Just like our thoughts, if you embrace the negative, are you able to shed the negative and live a much more freeing, positive life? So let's pick up back where we left on this story. The next morning, we were on the phone, and we were talking about the epiphany that I'd had the night before, and he embraced it, that he would wake up a brand new person every single day. He didn't have to be who he was yesterday. He didn't have to live in the labels of flop, failure, bust, anything that the media was saying about him. And we began talking about the negative, addressing the negative, accepting it, just like I had to accept that chicken dish was a thing of the past. And just by talking about the negative, it was a huge weight off his shoulders. It freed him up to be the player that we both knew he could be. And I'm really big on mental tools, because I've seen how effective they can be in helping people remember concepts and recall them at any given time. So I told him, any time he has a negative thought, and first thing when he wakes up in the morning, or anytime the media is saying something about him, all I want him to do is snap his fingers. SNAP stands for stop, notice, assess, pivot. SNAP. So every morning when he woke up, or any time he had a negative thought, he snapped his fingers. He snapped his fingers. And suddenly, his whole outlook on life was beginning to change. His demeanor on court even began to change. He was snapping his fingers in games, television interviews, practice. Everywhere he went down the street, he was snapping his fingers. He would stop, notice the negative thoughts, assess how he felt and dealt with his true feelings, and then pivoted the negative to see how it could be used as a positive. And he went on to have a great season. He solidified himself as one of the top players in the NBA. He was even asked in a television interview after he had a bad game, "Is the old Jew back again?" He just laughed, said, "No. Tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to be a brand new person." Snapped his fingers and walked away. It's okay to have negative thoughts. They don't have to be taboo. It's okay to see a shark attack and fear it. Those reactions are needed, especially if you're staring jaws down at his beady little eyes and massive fangs. It's okay to see a road sign and take note of it, especially if it says road ending, massive cliff upcoming. Embrace the negative. The only way to live a life of positivity is through first embracing the negative. Now, don't get it twisted. I am not saying negative thoughts are the end goal. The goal is to have the most positive thoughts and live that life of positivity. But you can absolutely not fake the positive. You can't take a broken leg, slap on a Band-Aid, and expect it to heal correctly. No, you must first address it and reset it for it to heal. Just like your thoughts. Negative thoughts are important signs. They signal where we need to bring our attention to. So no more suppressing negative thoughts. No more acting like they don't exist. Every morning when you wake up, you are a brand new person. Thank you very much.